U.S. Tennis Association boss backflips on support for Serena Williams. A private apology from Serena Williams' biggest supporter has been overheard in a stunning backflip, apparently. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. This was done in a conversation. Let me
Sniff. Ouch. Find yonder.
This was done in a conversation, and whether it's true or not, she hasn't officially said anything. So let's just read this. U.S. Tennis Association Chief Executive Karina Adams has been overheard apologizing to controversial umpire Carlos Ramos just days after she declared chair umpires have double standards when dealing with men's and women's matches. Really, I've just seen some stats showing that men are, the stats are just huge. Men are twice, if not three times more likely to get being penalised with violations. I think there was only one where the violation was higher than men, and that was for coaching. Funny enough. And so, all this nonsense that men get away with it and they never get penalised, it's ridiculous. Ramos, and this is the problem with feminism, and this is the problem with feminism. Feminists, this is why I hate feminism and I hate feminists, and clearly this is Katrina Adams and her ilk. Feminists are all. To be honest with you, the feminists will probably argue that these stats, there's a problem with these stats, even though they're over a 20-year period. They will still for these stats. But let's continue. Ramos, the tennis official at the centre of Serena Williams' sexism storm, earlier this week defended his actions in the US final, and quite rightly so. He officiated as he should have done, and this man is known to be straight down the line. He penalises both sexes, equally. The experienced Portuguese official found himself at the centre of a storm after his officiating of the match between Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka, which saw Williams accused him of sexism after she was docked again for receiving 3 code violations. And everybody knows, she was warned after a coach was seen communicating with her via hands gestures. You see, the thing is, now they're suddenly saying, we've got to get rid of this rule. It's clearly a stupid rule. It's a problem. It's only a problem because it's affected Serena Williams, and she's pissed because she didn't win the match. As I said before, I've done a few videos. She, her backside was handed to her by this young girl. This girl has already beaten her once, and she's beaten her again. And Serena is not happy. She's 36. She's getting on now. Nobody's saying she can't continue to play, but the problem is I've never had respect for Serena. I can't stand her. Serena was like, just can't. When her and her sister came on the scene, they would just talk nonsense, and even I, as a black person, would say, "You just sounded very, very embarrassing." I don't disagree that they went through racism, because they were the first real black people coming into a game that was dominated by white people, white men and white women. Okay, and so I'm sure they got some serious nonsense that went on in there. But as black people, we always have serious nonsense. But you have to stand up with style and with dignity. Okay, and you have to still do the right things and not the wrong things. Just because someone does bad to you or wrong thing doesn't mean that you do the same thing. It doesn't mean that you behave in their manner, because obviously that person is clearly not well and they're sick, in the head. That's why I look at people who behave in a bad way and are nasty people. I see them. They're probably damaged goods. If you look at their background, and that's why they're nasty. They've got to get off their. They've got to offload what's happened to them in their lives. They may be abused by their parents, physically and sexually, and they've got to find a way of offloading their anger, and so they offload it a lot of the time on other people, especially black people. Here we go. And some people are going to go, oh, here we go, we're bringing out the race card. Yeah, I'm bringing the race card out, mate. I'm bringing it out because I've experienced nonsense. But I still feel that, I'm an ex-rugby player, and there were times when I played, and I remember a team that we played, the referee was terrible. And he was clearly giving his team, we were getting penalties against us consistently. And I had to step in as a deputy captain with some of these guys. Said, look, just carry on playing our game. We will push forward. Whatever violations or penalties you give us, no problem. We keep going forward. But just play the game. And we end up beating the team. I think by one try. It could have been more, but we beat them, and that was the most important thing. We could have beaten them by more, but we beat them. But I had to step in because some of the guys were getting tets, and clearly he wasn't being fair. I stepped in and said, no, keep on playing, hold your head up high. We know what's going on, but just carry on playing. And that's what we did. We carried on playing. And we won the match. Serena Williams did not behave in the manner of a superstar tennis player. She behaved as a brat. She behaved as a 5-year-old. Okay. And then to bring in and say that it was sexism that was, causing that the umpire was being sexist. It's just flabbergasted. I just don't see it. Don't see it. And if you're going to bring sexism, and they say there's sexism in the game, there's a clear solution to the problem. The women's game must split and play at separate times. I mean, if you're going to have the US Open, have the US Open, but it must be 1 week for the ladies and the second week for the men, or the first week for the men and the second week for the women. And all the the umpires must officiate the men's game only by men, and the women must be umpired by women and women only. Ball girls, the same thing. No ball boys. Ball girls for the women and ball boys for so that way you remove sexism completely. Okay. I think that would be better for all and sundry. The 30s, because there seems to be there's a constant theme going on in society. I mean, I did a video of I think it's in Scotland, Celtic Rangers. There are some women there that are shouting and screaming that they want free tampons to be provided in the women's toilet, and they've got it because they see it as being discriminated to women because they've got to pay for tampons in the women's toilets. They provide tampons in the women's toilets, but because they've got to pay for it, their argument is that the toilet paper is free and the soap is free. So why don't they get tampons for free? So, but the problem is, what about the men? Because those tampons that they now will get free are being paid by men who don't use tampons. Why should men pay for the use of tampons for women in the women's toilets? And by the way, when you go to a cinema, when you go anywhere and you pay for something like the cinema, or you go to watch rugby or something like that, and you use the facilities there, generally, I mean, I have used, when I need to use the toilet, I have gone into the cinema and I've asked, can I use the toilet? And then when they've said, yes, you can use the toilet, when I come out and, I will buy something as a thank you for letting me use the toilet, for that particular place. But the point is that when you go to a cinema and you purchase a ticket, that ticket pays for everything in that cinema. It pays for the lights. It pays for the ushers. It pays for the carpet to be cleaned. It pays for the cleaners to clean the toilets. It pays for the air conditioning. Your ticket pays for everything in that cinema. So the toilet paper, if you use it, and the soap, if you use it, have to be bought, and they're bought out of the ticket. So it's not free. You've paid for it. So the reason why they put sanitary towels in the women's toilets where you've got to pay for it is because men don't use sanitary towels. So why should they pay for something that they don't use out of their ticket? So clearly fair, women. I mean, otherwise, in the men's toilets, they have condoms there. Why don't men be able to walk in and say, oh, free condoms, no problem. And without having to pay for a condom, they get a free condom. Oh no, the condom is not a necessity. Of course, it's a necessity for some people. Of course, it is. Just like sanitary towels are a necessity. But this is the general thing that I'm getting tired of, and I think it's this Me Too nonsense that's really permeating through every member of society. I think women need to be very, very careful. Men are going to take so much of this. I'm talking about proper, real men with big balls. I'm not talking about soya boys, effeminate men, or the bloody metro men, and all that kind of nonsense. I'm talking about real men who have real values, will not continue to take this nonsense. Conservative men like me are getting tired of this nonsense. The MGTOW movement is growing every day. This kind of thing cannot continue. Let's continue. So there was the heated discussion. The 36-year-old who was chasing a record equaling 24th Grand Slam final. I mean, that's what was getting up her head. She wanted that 24th. Equaling, she wanted that 24th badly. But she didn't get it. And let's go. After Ramos had to be escorted off court, Williams used her post-match press conference to suggest that men avoid such punishment for similar on-court behaviour. Adams came under fire in some circles for inflaming the sensitive situation when she released a statement hours after the final supporting Serena's protest, labelling Serena a true champion who showed a great deal of class and sportsmanship. This woman needs to step down. Nonsense. This is outrageous. She needs to step down. This is outrageous. You've got two women there. Two women of colour. And it seems you've sided clearly with Serena Williams. And this young girl, 20 years of age, who outplayed Serena, handed Serena her backside to her, and you've taken sides with Serena Williams for whatever reason. It's just outrageous. Outrageous. She did not show any class, and she did not show sportsmanship. None of those things. She didn't show any class at all, or any sportsmanship. She was a complete spoilt brat. Her daughter looks like she behaves properly than the mother. She also moved to excuse Williams' behaviour during an interview with ESPN the following day, when she suggested Williams would not have expected her outburst. Hold on a minute, let's just go back. She also moved to excuse Williams' behaviour during an interview with ESPN the following day, when she suggested Williams would not have expected her outburst towards Ramos to have been captured on live TV. What are you talking about? Listen to this. We watch the guys do this all the time. They are badgering the umpire on the changeovers. Nothing happens. There's no equality. There has to be some consistency across the board. These are conversations that will be imposed in the next week. Fine. And the other conversation that needs to be had is whether you should still be in that chair, because I think you're showing unbelievable bias when you are supposed to be impartial. Ben Rothenberg just watched back Karina Adams' interview on ESPN today. Credit to Chris McKendry and Mary Jo Fernandez for asking the right pointed question and for getting some truly strange answers out of Adams in reply. And then he goes on. Strangest line from USTA President Katrina Adams in defending Serena. It was on the changeover. She didn't expect for it to be on camera or on air at all. So that was a conversation that then was publicized, was on air, and then she got penalized for it. What? I totally agree with you, mate. I mean, there he is. Here. He's questioning the nonsense. This is the nonsense that this woman is talking. Sorry, Wallabies fan clash. I think that's the rugby there. I need to look at that. That looks good. Hopefully Argentina probably looks like they've been Australia. Anyway, yeah. So I'll be looking at the rugby. Now, Adams and Ramos have come face to face in Zandor ahead of the US team's Davis Cup tie against Croatia, where the veteran official will oversee some of the matches. Despite US players and captain Jimmy Connor declaring they have no issues with Ramos' umpiring their matches, Adams cannot be thrilled about facing Ramos so soon after siding with Williams in the wake of the US Open Women's Final. Now, this is the thing that we need confirmation from whether it's true or not. Adams was reportedly heard apologising to Ramos at the Davis Cup event, according to the Association Press journalists. If it's true, it constitutes a huge backflip from the USTA, which has been Williams' biggest supporter. We need confirmation on that. I mean, it overheard. It could have been something else that she was apologising for. But listen, she needs to apologise to him, period. She's a disgrace for being biased. I don't know what the USTA stands for. US Tennis Association, I suppose. Then if that's the case, you should be, should be unbiased. There we go. Speaking to the Portuguese newspaper earlier this week, in his native country, Ramos indicated he was at peace with his decisions because he didn't pick and choose when to apply the rule book. I'm fine given the circumstances. It's a delicate situation, but a la carte official, umpiring does not exist. Do not worry about it, which is correct. Ramos was supported belatedly by the International Tennis Federation. So this is the reason why it took them 2 days, and this is the reason why there's rumours of the umpires looking to set up their a union, because they're forbidden to talk to the press. Supposedly, he's gone and spoken to the press, so he's going to get fined by these people, and they don't have a voice in this situation. So he's been left to hang out to dry from this controversy. So it's no surprise they're looking to set up a association. They need to protect themselves from this kind of nonsense. This hag. She's had a date. She needs to pack up. She's 36. Come on. I'm tired of your BS. Who said he acted with professionalism and integrity, while the Women's Tennis Association had earlier backed Williams' claims that she received unfair treatment. What do you expect? It's a feminist bloody movement. All the Women's Tennis Association should say, you know what, we're going to split. We're not going to have men associating our tennis matches anymore. We're going our own way. You go your own way. But there's something I don't think they want to do. They don't want to do that. And you know why? Because the Women's Association, the women's tennis relies on the men's game. The men's game gets twice as many viewership as the women's, makes twice as much money as the women's tennis association, women's game. Okay. Twice as much. And so if they were to split, they would be worried. They really, really would be worried. So I would like them to split. Let them take their nonsense and go. If she's being received because he's a man, then you need to split. But the ITF have further shown their support by putting Ramos in charge of the Davis Cup semi-final, which will be played this weekend in Zandor. They've redeemed themselves, just about. It comes after a source told the Times some umpires are considering refusing to officiate matches involving Williams in the wake of her attack on Ramos. Yeah, get on with it. Come out with it. Get together and just say, no, I'm not going to officiate. Stuff it. And if the World Tennis Association says they'll find somebody else down the lower ranks, by all means, let them come through and take the nonsense if they're willing to officiate her match. And, if they get it wrong, they know what they'll receive. So Ramos, 47, was thrown to the wolves for simply doing his job and was not willing to be abused for it. He got abused for it. That's the trouble. He was abused consistently by this nutcase, this lunatic, this hysterical old hag who needs to give up now, make way for the fresher, younger meat that's out there. Not that I don't watch women's tennis at all. The last time I watched full women's tennis was in the 80s when I was young. I really don't watch women's tennis. Just don't watch it. Australian former umpire Richard Ings also reported feelings of unrest. The umpiring fraternity is thoroughly disturbed at being abandoned by the World Tennis Association. Ings told Richard told ESPN, they are all fearful that they could be the next Ramos. They feel that no one has their back when they have to make unpopular calls. Exactly. Let's have a look at this. This is Andrew Castle, and apparently he has caused a stir with his tweet about Serena after the. So let's click on that. That's quite interesting. Let's click through and see what his views are. Okay, let's Andrew Castle, because he used to be quite a good player for England, has tweeted his opinion on Serena Williams' US Open saga. I was published Friday ago. There you go. So let's have a look. So it's just talking about this girl. Blah, blah, blah. Williams faced both a penalty and a point and a penalty, game penalty during the match. Yeah. Let's go through this. Williams has been issued a serious ultimatum from senior umpire after US. Quite interesting. Let's have a look. I mean, it's just Williams seemed to be shouting at the chair umpire, demanding an apology. What an arrogant, such arrogance. So I'm having trouble with my, as usual. Let's have a look. Okay, that's because following Williams' claims that the penalties he received were sexist and unfair, retired British tennis player Andrew Castle has made comments on social media that appears to have angered many fans. Castle let's see what he has to say, took to Twitter to voice his thoughts on the events from the weekend, but it's the way he said it that has got so many people seeing red. I'm in tennis tomorrow. If I get a bad call, oh god, yeah. I'm playing tennis tomorrow. If I get a bad call, I'm going to smash my racket. Protest that I'm a father. Sorry, I got interrupted there by somebody who's coming into the room. I'm playing tennis tomorrow. If I get a bad call, I'm going to smash my racket, protest that I am a father. So, call my opponent a thief, demand an apology, and claim that I've been treated differently because of my gender. Then I will go home and grow up. Well done, Mr. Castle. Well done. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Let me see if I get it. Great, that's fantastic. One can only assume this was the 3-time men's double ATP title winner's way of saying that Serena Williams' behaviour was childish and that perhaps she needs to grow up. Well said. Whatever Castle was trying to suggest, it's certainly angered and upset many fans around the world. Yeah. Of course they do. The mentally deranged lunatics are coming out. The Twitter muppets. Strange. I remember. Here we go. Here. Strange. I remember you defending whatever that person's name for a lot worse. Fact is, the umpire could have calmed things down a lot better. No need for double standards. Yeah, nutcase. Dim-witted donkey. And here we go. You must have had. This is a black one. Yeah, you must have had different coverage wherever you live, whoever the hell you are. I totally missed the part where Serena called Osaka a thief. Not to mention she was fighting for herself, not against Osaka. Good grief. What are you talking about, you stupid lunatic? I don't know what you're talking about. Let's move on. I couldn't. You see, this is the trouble. This is where you get the lunatics come out of the woodwork. And, you know, let's see if I can move up. Oh, this. Here we go. This guy called Paul, censored. Her behaviour was awful, but her point about the double standards is accurate. Men consistently get away with worse. Also, she never referred to her opponent as a thief. He didn't say that. Oh, yeah, right. Okay, yeah, you're right. Sorry. Call my opponent a thief. So if you're going to attempt to be clever, at least be accurate. You failed on both counts. Okay. Yeah, you're right. He did say the other person. But what he meant to say was the official. But you know what he's supposed to have said. It is exactly that anarchic, misogynistic attitude that has forced women into the position they are. Keep fighting. Here we go. Another stating of the hatred of women. I think, this is the trouble. This is why I hate feminists. They're not rational people. They are mentally disturbed because they never think things through. They don't think things through. They don't look at the facts. I'm not a tennis player, but I'm, as I said, I'm an ex-rugby player. I know about you. When a rule is given, when a penalty is given against you, when a warning is given against you, you take that warning and you move on. There is no discussion by the umpire. He's not there to spend, all day discussing to you the rule. I mean, if the captain, it's the captain's job to go to the umpire and say, "Can you explain that last penalty or that last warning?" A lot of the time, in rugby, when you get a warning, you take that warning and you move on. You know, one thing we know about for certain is that gender equality in sport is still an issue that many people are concerned about. But does this point excuse Williams for a behaviour, or has Castle crossed a line? Listen, if there is a gender issue, equality, when you say in sport, what are you talking about? I mean, if women are not happy about the situation of they can alter that by separating properly. I mean, the Olympics, let's have, if there's a month I think it's a month or 2 weeks of Olympics, let's have 2 weeks of the women's sport, officiated only by women, and let's have 2 weeks of the men's Olympics, officiated by only men and no women. Or at least you could have umpires that are both men and women, but it was clearly in the women's, it will just be purely women. And then that way we won't have all this nonsense, because clearly there's a problem with men and women working, even in sport. You get all this nonsense about women not being in, like motor racing, for instance. In America, there's an American woman that came through in the Daytona and the NASCAR. I think she's in NASCAR now. I don't think she's retired. I don't know. So women can clearly race in these sports. So it's up to them to come in, if they really want to come into these motor racing sports, to come in themselves. They've got to pay. I mean, if you look at Lewis Hamilton's father, I think he had either 2 or 3 jobs in order to support Lewis for him to get into Formula One. And if he didn't do that, he wouldn't have got in. He may have got in through his talents one way or another. If women are that talented and really want to get into Formula One or into certain sports, they're going to have to do the work. And if their parents are willing to pay for them, so be it. I'm tired of this. There's gender equality in what? I don't know. But anyway, I'm really pleased about Mr. Castle's comment. That's really funny. Let's close that down. All right, let's see if we go back to. Okay, and then we've got Jamie Murray has given his take on the Serena umpire hour, and it's spot on. Okay, let's hear what he's got to say. I think that's quite interesting. So I don't know if we can get through to that. Hopefully, if not, then. But as I say, I think the main point for me is that Krachina, or whatever her name is, needs to apologise to Ramos, because she should not have taken sides on this. The Women's Tennis Association should not be taking sides either. And they should not be condoning her behaviour, because her behaviour was clearly out of order. But instead, for whatever reason, they decided to, back her, which is completely wrong. Let me see if I can see. Yeah, I don't think I can. I'm not able to get this. What Andy Murray's brother said. Oh, might be getting there. Just have to wait and see. Oh, here we go. Give me sport. Here we go. Most entitled, arrogant. Here we go. Serena Williams' claim of sexism dismissed by Jamie Murray as far-fetched. Well said. I don't know what his brother's going to say, because his brother said some silly things in the past, especially when it comes to women's issue. 4 times Grand Slam winner Jamie Murray has dismissed claims by Serena Williams that sexism is rife in tennis, levelling the claim as a bit far-fetched. Well, if sexism is rife in the game, you need to split the men and the women. Okay, you need to. It's got to be done. You know, this is just ridiculous. It really is, and I think many men should be offended by that because to say that it's rife, I don't know. Murray, who won the US Open as mixed doubles partner, on Saturday, was also quick to defend under fire Ramos, claiming that he merely did what was within his rights. Exactly. And they go through all the, the palaver of what was said. Despite many current and former umpires and pundits coming out to Ramos' aid in the ongoing argument, Williams was unrelenting in her criticism of both the umpire and the decision, and claimed after the match that the same punishment would not have applied were she male. There's figures come out showing that over the last 20 years, men literally double, if not 3 times more likely to be penalised than women on the number of penalty point violations and stuff like that. There's only one violation where women literally outpace men, and that's on coaching violations, which is quite interesting. So I'm just trying to okay. So this claim has sparked much debate and deliberation across the entire sport, especially after legendary American player received the full backing of the Women's Tennis Association, the governing body of women's tennis. As I said before, if women are so badly treated in tennis, they must split from the game. They must go their own way, just like golf. I mean, I don't know if that's fully separated from the men's, but it doesn't play at the same time as the men's, or they have their own times, which is great. So we don't get to see the women's game unless they show it on TV whenever they decide to. But in tennis, especially in the Opens, both men's and the women's are played at the same time in the same stadiums, and I think it's time that they split. The men and the women need to split, because this is just getting ridiculous, But it says here, however, despite this backing and the general furore surrounding the issue, Murray was less than impressed with the claims being made by his fellow professional. I think the umpire did what was within his rights. Coaching is common. A lot of people are doing it. Some people aren't getting called for it. That's life, to get called in a Grand Slam final was perhaps a bit tight. To get called in a Grand Slam final was perhaps a bit tight, but I think the reaction was pretty overboard. I've seen a lot of people getting called for coaching before, and you might have a grumble and stuff, but you get on with it. Exactly. So if you get caught for coaching, you grumble, but it's a warning. It was a warning. It wasn't. You didn't get a point, so she could have just brushed it off and carried on. whilst Murray's comments are sure to spark outrage amongst those who support it, this is the problem. If you don't follow the narrative of the SJW, the feminist narrative, you will be hounded. Amongst those who support the Williams in the matter, others have protested over the lack of coverage that eventual winner Osaka received due to the incident. Yeah. What's her name? Idiot Williams needs to apologise publicly. We need to see a proper full apology from her. Further fuel has been added to the fire by US Tennis Association chief Katrina Adams, who was reportedly overheard apologising to Ramos over the incident and the scrutiny and abuse he has suffered since as a result. So, it's clear that there are people out there now who are actually, because this Katrina's had to backtrack because she's the information's coming out showing that this statement that women are penalised more because they're women clearly shows that it's nonsense, that men are penalised more. So she's had no. If it's correct that she's apologised, good. I personally would like to see her step down, because this is not acceptable for someone to come out with that and accuse a man of being sexist when he clearly hasn't. Let's have a look at this. I don't know if we can get through. Umpires considering, okay. So let me just. Umpires threatened to boycott Serena Williams matches following events at the US final. Oh, this is 4 days ago. What's that?
I don't feel sad, because I wouldn't even know what, I'm expected to feel, because I feel like...
Right, sorry about that. There's these little ads that pop up, and there's not much you can do about it. Oh, Serena has been. This is the one I wanted to. Let's click on that. If we get an ad again, I apologise. I can't do anything about it. Here we go. Starting again. Let me see if I can catch it. Right. Senior umpire.
I don't feel sad.
God almighty. Here we go. The almighty noise engulfing tennis after Serena Williams' on-court meltdown at the US final has continued further this week, with various figures in the sport coming out and having their say. Senior umpire Bob Christensen has waded into the row, demonstrating the depth of feeling around the issue in the umpiring community. He has stated that umpires have openly discussed boycotting further Serena matches if she continues to refuse to apologise for her antics. Too right. Oh, I'm very happy. If that's true, I hope it forces her to make. She has to apologise. If she doesn't, then don't umpire her. What we are looking for an apology from Serena to the official or officials in general. And if we don't get that, there might be a potential boycott of her next match. The row shows no sign of going away as fellow American legend of the Billie Jean nonsense came out in support of Serena's sexist claims this week, saying in the aftermath of the final, when a woman is emotional, she's hysterical, and she gets penalised for it. When a man does the same, he's outspoken, and there's no repercussions, which is a complete and total lie. There are figures that show that men are twice, if not 3 times more likely. In fact, I think there's a figure of 660 odd to 99. I mean, that kind of figures. There's only one where women outdo men in penalties, and that's in coach violation, which is strange. So this is the feminist evil nonsense that's coming through. And she says, "Thank you, Serena, for calling out this double standard." There's no double standards. It's rubbish. Here we go. King later in the week slightly backpedaled her comments, remarking that she thought Serena was out of line for her behaviour, but also criticised the umpire, saying that he blew it and could have handled the situation better. Nope, he handled it within the rules, and if Serena is very immature still, the accusation of sexism against Williams clearly has really rankled with Christensen, stating that this is appalling, and mentioned that she's had blowouts like this before, usually when she's losing. The row has been likened to some of the infamous John McEnroe meltdowns, but Christensen thinks that Serena's behaviour eclipsed these. Of course it did. I mean, it's outrageous. That was the worst something I've witnessed in my 40 years of tennis officiating. He has been steadfast in his support for Ramos since the incident, commenting that Serena deserved her violations as a coach, admitted to coaching, and that she's broke her racket on court and called the umpire a thief. Unbelievable. It remains to be seen whether Serena will face further ramifications for her behaviour after being fined 17 grand in the wake of the incident. Her lack of an apology thus far, the support she has received in some quarters, and the discrepancy on coaching between WTA events and Grand Slams leaves tennis with some difficult questions to answer moving forward. Clearly, the stinging criticism from Christensen and threats of boycott seem to suggest this row is not going to go away anytime soon. Absolutely. This immature numpty has caused nothing but grief. She's always been like this. I can't stand Serena Williams. I can't stand her sister. I don't care what she's done, so-called tennis for black people. To me, she's not a good role model. She's a bad role model. Okay, look, she's won these tennis, fine, but I think this is part of the behaviour has been bullying. She's a bully. She bullies her way on. She's bullied her way through, and she's used the race card a few times, I'm sure, to push herself forward. So what she's getting at the moment, no sympathy for her at all. I don't care for her at all. As a black man, I think her behaviour is very bad, and she needs to apologise both to Mr. Ramos, and also to the young girl who beat her, literally gave her arse, her big arse, by beating her. Anyway, that's my view. Thanks for listening. Oh, and subscribe. Thank you.